Today is a big day for the 240Z. Today what I'm going to be doing is prepping this car for paint. That's right, she's getting a new paint job. What I have here is a nice smorgasbord of tools that I'm going to be using to paint my Z. Of course, we have a 3-gallon air compressor with a 1/4-inch hose and adapter set, which will be providing air to these HPLV spray guns. This is just a generic set off of eBay. Nothing special, but it'll most certainly do better than rattle cans. So I got a set of 3 with a valve, one for primer, base coat, and clear coat, but I'm not too sure if I'm going to be doing clear coat. If I can find a single stage paint, I'm definitely going to go with that because it'll look, it'll have the most closest representation of the original color of the car. And for spots where there's a lot of surface rust and a lot of paint chipping, I'm going to be using this gravity-fed sand blaster to get all of that nasty paint off that would be much more difficult to do with a standard sander. But before I start hitting this thing with paint, there are some things I have to do. One of them being filling in as many dings and dents as I can, especially this one right here on the quarter panel. As you can see, it's very deep, and it's just, there's no point painting over that because it's going to look like shit and it's going to bug me later. So unfortunately I cannot get to this from the inside due to the way the unibody is. So I'm simply going to do my best to bondo over it. It's going to take a lot of bondo and it's going to be kind of crude, but even if it's not perfect, it's sure as hell going to look better than this nasty ass gash in here. There are some other spots as well, like on the roof there are a couple of dings where the previous owner, I guess, set things on the roof that are going to have to be filled in. They're not too bad, but they're just kind of, you know, they're kind of spread across. They're not that deep at all, so it should be relatively simple on that. And of course, I have to remove all the emblems, all the lights, the bumpers, the trim, all the stuff that goes kind of without saying. But once all that is said and done, we will go ahead, start masking stuff off, and begin the painting process. It's probably going to take a few days, but I'll try to time lapse the best I can. Since this spot is going to be the hardest to deal with, I'm going to start with it first. So I'm just going to take a sanding block and start to dig into the paint here to get the surface layer off. And then I'm going to finish it off with an orbital sander. Alright, so as you guys can see, brought the area down to bare metal. If I go at an angle, you can kind of see where it's gashed in along here. I've also sanded some surrounding areas as well, because it will be primered over in the meantime, just to keep any rust from coming through. There's another angle. You can kind of see it in the reflection of how it was gashed. So basically, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix the bondo. I'm going to start applying it as best as I can. I mean, I don't have a lot of experience with bodywork, so I don't expect this to be perfect, but as long as this covers up this nasty gash, I'll be happy. Okay, I just set this massive glob of bondo onto the affected area. I know it looks like shit. It's supposed to look like shit until you sand it down, which is okay. I think it went on pretty evenly. I kind of pasted it back and forth, went flat a couple times. I think it filled in the gash pretty well. I won't know until it dries completely and I sand the surface down. I might have some air pockets because I was having a bit of trouble with that, but that's okay because if I do have air pockets, then I'll just go over it again with another layer to fill those in and then repeat. So the first thing I'm going to install are my new door panels. These are by Skillard. They're just sheets of aluminum basically, and they're embossed to use the factory door handles and the release levers. So it comes with all the needed hardware, all new screws, bolts, washers. I got the rubber well nuts which compress and expand to keep it in place. And it's plug in and play pretty much. So let's give her a shot. Right there. And then down here I'll try to kind of feed this through at the bottom. There we go. Okay, and now we are in place. Okay, so once you've got all the little screws in, all the way around, including a larger one up top for the corner, you are pretty much done. Of course, I don't have a door grab right now, or a window crank, but I will. I will soon. But as far as it goes now, it is on there, and it's looking much better. Okay, so I've just sanded off the Bondo flat. It actually feels really good. It looks pretty good, but there are a couple of little bubbles that I kind of found in the surface that I'll probably need to fill in later. It feels pretty flat across. There's a little bit of a slope right here I can feel, so I might need to fill that in a little bit more. But overall, it's much better than it was. But I think I still have a little bit more work to do before I primer it over. Okay, it's much later in the evening now, and I've backed the car into the garage. I've got some plastic up, and I'm doing some serious prep here. I've taken the trim off, the marker off, the emblem, taped up all these quarter panels, taped up the bumper. Main reason why I'm not taking off the bumper to paint it is because due to when it was rear-ended, it was repaired very cheaply. This whole section back here is pushed in and dented up, and down the road I'm just gonna find a shell of a 240Z, cut the whole section out, and take it to a body shop and get it re-welded. So there's really no point in painting this part because it's going to be cut out anyway, and I'll just be wasting paint. So yeah, I'm going to start with primer. I'm going to prime the area down. Of course, I'm going to cover up the wheel. Can't forget that. And I'm going to kind of do a little test run of the paint gun just to kind of get familiar with it. I'm going to start it with primer because, of course, I don't want to waste any base coat.
Just want
Okay, well, I'm happy to say that the rear passenger side quarter panel is done. It came out really well. It's really consistent. Once I got the sprayer dialed in, they've got the pressure and the nozzle. I was really able to use all the paint efficiently and put it down really evenly. And then, of course, there's some orange peel because it is primer, but I mean, it's very consistent. Of course, this is just the beginning. It's just kind of the top area. Tomorrow I'm going to have to jack it up a bit, sand the rockers down on each side and do that, and cover up the gas tank because it is exposed. But I mean, so far so good. It's definitely coming along, and I'm so far happy with the progress. Okay, it's day 2, and we're preparing to paint the whole passenger side of the car. Sanded down the fender, the bottom of the door here where the adhesive was. Got everything taped off, the windshield, the trim. I've already kind of started just with a rattle can just to get some of the tight spaces where using a paint gun would kind of run the paint. So at this point I'm going to paint the whole passenger side at once, and then we'll flip it around, do the other side. Then once the whole car is primered, we're going to wet sand it, and then do the same procedure with the base coat. So with all that said, let's begin. Okay, so for the most part, we have the passenger side all primered up. We're just letting her dry, and then we're going to wet sand her. And in the meantime, we're going to tape off the rest of this bumper here and the tail lights because we're going to paint the hatch. Okay, so now we're going to flip this thing around, going to pull it out, then nose it in so we can get the passenger side. So this should be interesting. I've kind of written myself a small little viewport here so I can kind of see where I'm going. So hopefully I don't hit anything, but if I do, make sure to get it on camera. That's good for views. I can just barely see through. Alright. So it's slightly nerve-wracking. Alrighty, it is day 3 and I have finished applying primer to all the surfaces that I'm going to paint. I did run out yesterday, so I had to go out and get some more primer, and you might be able to tell on the camera, but it's slightly lighter than the previous primer I was using. It's not that much of a difference, but primer is primer for the most part. It's all still gray, so it shouldn't show through the paint, at least noticeably. But yeah, I just wet sanded all the primer so it's a smooth surface now, and I've cleaned all the dust off, used some microfiber towels, some compressed air, so on and so forth, and I think now, without further ado, I'm going to start applying the 918 orange.